Hi, my name is Tafadzwa and I'm very excited to be doing this video. I want to start off by saying I can never thank you enough. There are people who sent me donations when I was doing a crowdfunding campaign, and through those donations I was able to have this gadget in my hand, and I've been using it for around 5 months now. So now that I've used it for as long as I have used it, I felt like maybe I should do a video, kind of a review to say, hey, I've been using this for 5 months. Here's some technical stuff I've learned. Well, maybe not technical, because I'm an animator. I'm not a professional sound recorder, so I don't know much about sound. So if you're expecting like technical terminologies and jargon, I'm sorry. I know nothing about that. This is the first voice recorder that I've owned, so I'm going to be speaking from that perspective, an animator who's now owning his first recorder. So let's get started, and I'll start off by saying the name of this recorder is the Zoom H8, and right off the bat, one thing that I didn't realize was at the back of my mind, like I said, this is my first recorder. I thought this recorder has got its own internal storage. I thought it comes with some kind of, I don't know why I thought it's got like 3 gig internal. And I thought when you add a card, you'll be adding extra storage because it's got its own internal storage. This I never actually saw it written anywhere now that I think of it, but I that's what I thought, I assumed. So when I got the recorder, I got a card because I thought I'm getting something extra, but I'm so glad I also got the card, because when I finally received it and started using the recorder, I then realized it doesn't have any internal storage. So if you get somewhere and you are at an event or the recording session or whatever, and you forget a card, you forget to bring a card, when you switch it on and you switch between the recording apps, because it uses apps. So there's a music recording app, there's a podcast recording app, and there's a field recording app. So when you switch on a particular app, it will then tell you, oh, sorry guy, no card. And unless you can find another card, that's it, it's done. So I really wish they had at least a gig or like something internal. Maybe not a lot, but I wish they had that. But it's not an issue, as long as you always remember to have a card with you. So I had to start off with that. And now let me move on to something that you're probably looking at. Yes, it says Sony here. So another thing that I hadn't realized was that this recorder, it's actually got these here where you can hook it to a strap. So I've got this belt that I took from an old Sony camera, and I never thought of it while I was buying it, and no one ever talks about it to say, when you have this recorder, because of how big it is and because of how portable it is, you need to get a belt like this. So no one ever talks about that, and it doesn't come with a belt in the box. At least mine didn't. So that's something you also need to be aware of. If you're going to be getting this same recorder, it's a brilliant recorder. I highly recommend it. I know that that doesn't mean a lot since it's the first recorder I've ever used, but it's served me really well. But if you're going to have it and record the kind of sessions that I've recorded, I've used this for like 4 hours. I've done certain non-stop recordings which went on for 2 hours. So I've used it for quite prolonged times, and to have this old Sony strap that I'm using here, it's a lifesaver, because then I can just have it hanging on my neck and not have to worry about it. So I keep saying I love this. It's been brilliant using it, and I use it every day actually. So I do several things. There's a podcast that I've been working on, and right now it's on a break, a bit of a forced break, because I'm trying to focus on the website for the podcast. But even as I'm not doing the podcast, I still use this recorder every day for so many other things. More particularly, there are certain like sermons and stuff that I record at church, even when it's not Sunday. During the week, there are certain lessons and teachings that I record with different preachers. So it served me really well. But what are some kind of semi-negative stuff I can say about it? One thing in particular that kind of frustrates me, a bit annoying, is here at the back. This right here, these springs have a tendency of damaging batteries. I don't know if it's just me, but I this thing is damaging my batteries. Nothing serious per se, but what it's doing is that the more I use my batteries in it and take them out and put them back in and so on, the plastic at the bottom of the battery keeps being scrapped. And now they're like threads of plastics because the wire keeps cutting into it. The more I put them in and out, in and out, in and out. So when I move my battery to other gadgets, like my speed lights, which I use for photography, those lights require the battery to be pushed into the speed light. So when I do that, sometimes the batteries don't come out because this recorder has kind of scrapped and done stuff to the plastic. So now the plastic isn't as smooth and as flat as it's meant to be. And it's something that I've noticed, which is, I don't know, maybe it's just me. But I can tell you that I've had these batteries for a while, and in as much as they were getting old, and I've got several batteries from several brands, and ever since I've had the recorder, that's when the problem of these batteries getting stuck in my speed lights started. So yeah, that's something to note. And this is not a real negative, this next point, but it's something to note if you are like me. So I mentioned my podcast, and there are certain platforms and places where I put the podcast, and it needs to be in a 64 KB. I hope I got the figure right. So kbps, blah, 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 whatever. So it needs to be 64. Right? So I do MP3s and 64. Not for all my projects. I prefer WAV where possible. The WAV format is brilliant, but then it also then consumes a lot of space. And some of the platforms and things I do with my audio don't require WAV. And some of the softwares don't even recognize WAV. And they require MP3s that are like 64 kbps and so on, whatever. Yeah. So this recorder doesn't go that low. It doesn't give you sound that's its lowest number is 128. Yeah, and it's not a negative because then it's a quality recorder, But then if you are someone who does certain processes that don't necessarily require that much, then you would need to import it into your software, convert it down, which is what I do sometimes, depending on what I'm doing and where it needs to go. So I just had to kind of put that out there. And now let me go back to another thing that you need to be aware of. Right here, you can see this is the XY capsule. This capsule is brilliant. It's you can do a lot with it, but your options of what you can do not so much. You won't be able to do a lot with it if you don't have a wind blocker. Now, in the box, it comes with the capsule. The voice recorder comes with the capsule. You can put it on and life is good, But they don't give you a wind blocker. So you need to buy that. I don't know how much it will cost or whatever, but you need to get that. It's not an option. You really need it. You won't be able to do as much recording with this XY capsule if you don't have a way of blocking wind, and wind will be a big problem. So once you have that sorted, everything is good. In my case, I used this. I kind of took apart those ear warmers that people use, and I I took out the stuffing, and it's a makeshift wind blocker that I use. It does the job, serves my purposes and needs, so I'm happy. Yeah, so that's pretty much most of what I wanted to talk about, right? Because I've talked about internal storage, it not having internal storage, if I'm going to be more specific. And this here, this strap, you need to really get it. It doesn't come with a strap in the box, and people don't even talk about this whole thing. And for me now, having used this for nearly 5 months, I can tell you, you need a strap. So if you're going to buy this recorder, if you're going to get it, if you're going to be using it, you need a strap. I'm happy with this Sony one, the second-hand one that I took from an old camera. So yeah, that's good. And I don't know if the battery issue that I talked about with the springs, if that's just me, but yeah, that's a bit annoying for me. Probably the last thing that I can add, just as a, like maybe last 2 things I can add is there's at the bottom here, there's a hold button. This button, lifesaver, use it, use it, use it, use it. So what it does is it puts the thing on hold, which means your touch screen no longer like responds when you unintentionally touch it while you're focused on other things or whatever, So yeah, I loved it. And even this record button won't work if it's got hold on here. So maybe this is something that's obvious to people who have used the predecessors of Zoom recorders or other recorders. But for me, as someone who's new to this piece of hardware, I was quite happy with that feature. This holding thing, it's brilliant. Yeah, so I had to kind of also throw it in there and name your folders. In my case, I've said it and I've said it again, I record a lot of things daily, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So in a space of 3 weeks, a month or 2 months, I will have a lot of recordings. And some of the projects that I record, I don't record the session in one sitting. There are certain things that I do which I record one part here, then 3 days later I meet up with someone else, I interview them for the rest of the thing, and then maybe a month later I record the remainder of the thing, and then I have to join the stuff together because of the volume of stuff I do. And well, if you can look at the card, I've also got a massive card here, and because of that, stuff will get lost. Yeah, I once had to record something because I couldn't find it. I knew it was there. This is the card that I use. It's in there somewhere, but I can't find it. It's easier, or rather it was easier for me to re-record it. But yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So name your folders. I thought the touchscreen was going to be an issue because before I had this gadget, a lot of people said, the touchscreen is going to be small and it's going to probably be annoying to use. My solution, if you know tomorrow that you're going to be recording a choir and the choir is going to be singing whatever, the day before, the night before, sit down on your recorder, switch it on, go into the app that you're going to be using, create a folder, name the folder, tell the app, this is the folder to use, switch it off, go to sleep. Tomorrow morning, you're sorted. The other thing to note, which is the last thing I shall now say, is that once you set, like I said, it's got different apps. So there's a music recording app, there's a field recording app, and there's a podcast recording app. So once you are using a specific app, if you set a folder in one app, the other applications don't go to that folder by default. If you decide to switch into another application, maybe the podcast recording app, once you do that, you have to go back into the settings for the podcast recording app and point to the same folder that you want the things to go into. So that's something you need to be aware of. That's something that I wasn't aware of. And it caused me some headaches when I couldn't find my audio in the folder because I had switched between apps. And I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover as someone who's used this recorder for around 5 months now. So yeah, I'm done. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll try my best to help you, especially if it's not too technical. Because like I said, I'm just an animator who is falling in love with sound recording. once again, I can never thank you enough for all the people that sent me donations that allowed me to have this brilliant gadget in my hand. I could have never afforded this on my own income, and I'm just really happy with it. Yeah, cheers.